that should be us live. In just a second to get both my screens up here. Thinking about it. Okay. Is this too dark? This is too dark. Flashbang. Alright. Wendigoon carving we started yesterday. I'll try and finish it up today. Well, I was prior to this watching a lot of video essays recently. I always like a good video essay. Just found this fella Jacob Geller. Had very interesting video topics. Excuse me. And serendipitously, the one I was watching just before I went live had a comment from Wendigoon. Which I thought was funny in some sort of way. I was watching his video titled Fear of the Dark. Didn't get to finish it. Only a couple minutes in. But it got me thinking about that fundamental fear of the dark we all seem to have. Most people attribute it to fear of the unknown. You've even heard people say because when we die, we are in darkness. Interesting. But as I was listening to him talk about this fear of dark, damn it. Doing good, and then I slept. I had a different idea. I've always ascribed to the idea that the fear of the dark is fear of the unknown. Seems logical. Just more often than not, when we're afraid of the dark, it's not the darkness itself, but rather what can be hiding in it. The boogeymen of our childhood and the bad actors of our adulthood. But as I was thinking about that, I had a different idea. What if, and this is where Jacob Geller comes in, he seemed to indicate that dark was the natural state of the universe. But what if it's not? What if our fear of the dark, because it's fundamentally wrong, that the natural state of the universe is actually light. Now, I fully admit this is coming from a fairly Christian place. What if that's why we're afraid of the dark? Why we find comfort in the light? Not as if there's safety in the light. Plenty of predators hunt during the day. Plenty of terrible things happen in broad daylight. If you live in certain parts of the world, the sun is deadly. Well, the sun's deadly regardless of where you live. Thinking more of the Sahara or Death Valley deserts. Place where the sun being deadly is a much more present threat than, say, the skin cancer and sunburns people usually describe it to. Why then do we feel safety in it? Perhaps. Or what I'm... Now, this is not a formulated thought. It's kind of coming to me. I'm working through it as I talk. What if the natural state of the universe is light? And that is why we feel comfort. After all, there's the famous, God said, "Let there be light." It's not as if ancient peoples didn't know about darkness, nor does the Bible suggest that the dark came about afterward. I don't know really where I'm going with that part of it, but perhaps perhaps we see light in whatever piece of the divine that has been granted to us recognizes light as what is supposed to be, and dark is what is not supposed to be. But even that is a somewhat limited viewpoint. This idea that evil shouldn't be. I don't know that I particularly ascribe to that notion. One of those general philosophy revolving around religion, more specifically my religion, by which I mean my personal faith, not Christianity. Is the complexity of it. a lot of detractors of faith will say, point out that it seems bizarre or cruel for an all-powerful God to create or allow pain and suffering. And as near as I've been able to reconcile it with myself, I feel like the key problem is attempting to understand the perfect with an imperfect mind. That the human mind, with its flaws, cannot perceive the divine. Not properly. Like it's way more complex than we give it credit for. Am I facing there? No? Okay. And while I think that's interesting and that idea resonates with me, I can't help but feel that I'm still missing a piece of it. Like what? Alright, suppose I'm onto something. And that I am right about our inability to perceive the divine in its whole. I kind of wish I phrased that differently. As a whole. What do I do with that? How do I incorporate that into my faith and my belief and my devotion to God? Is there anything to do with that? I don't believe that knowledge is only meaningful if practical. I think generally it's good to find practical use for your knowledge, but you find knowledge to be, the pursuit of knowledge is its own function. The acquiring of knowledge. Even if that doesn't mean anything significant to your life. Still believe it has value. I'm going to flip this. I want to try it without the light on. Yeah, see that? I'm going to futz with this a little bit. What's that do? Like really nothing good, huh? How's that? filter that. Make it piss yellow. Maybe. I'll fuck with that later. What was I talking? Oh yeah. Fear of the dark. The idea that comes from our divine origin. I don't know. There. Still on the lookout for that snake. I haven't seen him since yesterday, which is both good and bad. It's good because I really don't want him in the house. It is less good because I'd rather know he's not in the house than be on the constant lookout for him. Speaking of which, I keep checking the place where I saw him the first time. I don't know how habitual snakes are. Like, I don't know if he will show up in the same spot, or because he was confronted, will he avoid it? I'm really hoping he is either staying under the house, which causes its own problem, or he has found some place else to be. Speaking of being its own problem, it's been raining here, and unfortunately, the underside of my house has a tendency to flood, which means I gotta spend a couple days pumping it out. Which is a muddy mess. But it's been dry, so I might be okay. I don't know. I'm a little worried that the storm is going to knock out the internet. But so far, so good. I want to talk more about what's his name? Jeremy Geller? Hold on. Jacob Geller. Because I found him. What was the first? Oh yeah, it was the Should Indiana Jones Believe in God, which was a really cool video. And very interesting. And I like his conclusion in it. That, well, go fucking watch it. But it strikes me as Jacob, fuck. I just looked at it and I cannot remember. I'm terrible with names. I think it's Jacob. Based on what he was saying, I assume that he himself is not a man of faith. but is very respectful of it, which I greatly appreciate. But a lot of his videos, I say a lot, I've watched two, and they both touch on the divine and God. I watched the Indiana Jones one and his one on Pinocchio, which was really cool. It made me want to watch the Guillermo del Toro Pinocchio. But from what I've seen, it seems like a lot of his other videos deal with fear and kind of the darker aspects. And I feel like there's something there. Like maybe he sees the dark, ironically, and looks for answers about it. And he doesn't find God to be an appropriate answer or a personally true answer. And seems to hold some sway, or perhaps he just grew up religious. I don't know. Okay. I think we're ready to really fuck this thing up. Now this is where, hold on, let me stop clanging it around. This is where I can really fuck myself and end up just throwing this away. Because well, how do I want to... So the idea is, I talked about this yesterday, but to hog out this material and kind of try and make it seem like this is the deeper end, and then it moves towards the surface here. And because wood is not very liquid, I was thinking I'll use my curved chisel here and kind of add, like depth to it. Do a lot down here. And less towards them. Ow, but that doesn't do... fuck it. Oh, that's a tough son of a bitch. Yeah, I don't know if I like that. Well, it's... The question is, do we go in for a penny, in for a pound? And just fuck this thing up, and if it gets bad, we throw it away? Try again with a different one? Or do we go, hey, that's not terrible, let's just fucking roll with it? Nope. In for a penny, in for a pound. was gonna... I know you can't see what I'm chiseling away at here. I got this piece. Didn't think about that, did you, Don? There's a good spot. About there? About there. Apologies if this sounds terrible. I don't want to lose my text here. So as I scoop it out, I'm just going to have to touch it up. It might actually add to the effect if I let it. Face out of the shot, Don. Now I can kind of use my outline here as a cheat, can I? This is what I was going for. I probably should have taken a plane or something and just... I don't have a... What am I thinking of? Planer? Yeah. But I probably should have taken this end down. And then did this instead of dulling my chisels. It would be neat if I could keep the words here raised. But I don't think I have the skill for that. Maybe. Guess we'll see. I like that I talked about, oh, I can kind of cheat and use my outline, do this, and then immediately ignored that. I did have another plan of I got some linseed oil. And I think I'll do the linseed oil and then tung oil. And just like do multiple layers down here in the linseed. Kind of darken it. And then gradually do less and less. Really need to focus more on this side. I've done a lot over here, not so much over here. Feeling less and less confident about hogging material off. Oh well. Probably just start burning. Oh, helps if you turn the thing on. Done. Yeah, I don't know. I think we're gonna call that good wood carving wise. For now, at least. Now, I did want to try something. Well, excuse me a moment. I mean, that looks really cool. But then I'll sand off the stuff that's on the skull and just leave the eye sockets and the nose here. What do I got in my little sander? Doohickey. There it is. I realized I pulled out the outline over on the one side and I never did on the other. I wonder if I just kind of scrape. No? Okay. Gonna sand for a little bit while I'm waiting for this guy to warm up, which it actually should be by now. Yep. See if I got any better at doing this. W looks funky, doesn't it? thinking about maybe taking a break from this style of wood carving and try to do some whittling. I don't know. Never whittled before. Oh, I just realized I was going to do that torch thing down here too. That was part of it. I think I decided that this part of the problem with using this as a wood burner is that the oils from the wood get on it and really mess up the burn. Hence the wire brush. That's the word, Don. Jesus Christ, you only use them every day. Sorry. And as usual, I gotta stop calling these finishing, because finishing is an actual woodworking term, and I'm not planning on finishing this piece on stream, because that would be literally watching paint dry functionally. While my streams might be dull, I'd like to think I'm at least a level above that. But that might be me being optimistic. I don't know if I've ever talked. Feels appropriate since I mentioned that watching Mr. Geller there. Oh, yes. I don't really have like criteria for who gets these, or who gets these. Get over yourself, Don. Who I make these about. Let's go with that. So, even though I talked a good deal about him during this particular stream, I don't at the moment have any plans to make such a carving for Mr. Geller. I almost called this a sculpture. Would this be considered a sculpture? I don't mean in that modern art, like everything is a sculpture sort of way. I think classically would this be considered a sculpture, because it's not, I mean, it's not a painting. I use the term wood carving because I'm carving wood, but I don't know. It's like that the person who came by when I was writing the story. People tend to more accurately or more specifically categorize things when you're in flash fiction is the phrase I remember. What was their name? Ooh, that was a crack. Almost grabbed the hot thing. Would not have been good with gloves on. Richard Pryor myself and melt these gloves on. Do people... I feel like I haven't heard anybody mention Richard Pryor in some years. For a while there, he was... We used to talk about the comedy Mount Rushmore. And it was generally agreed upon at the time that Richard Pryor and George Carlin would be on it. A lot of silly debates about who's the better comedian. I don't know. I feel like people take things too seriously. And I include both people who take it too seriously about who's the better comedian, but also people who are like, how dare you even suggest that that is a quantifiable thing? Like, it can just be fun. It doesn't have to be a deep, meaningful discussion. Ironic, considering I spent the first part of the stream talking about fear and God and generally deep subjects. But the important thing is, know what is deep and meaningful, and what isn't. And you can be deep and meaningful about fear and God and all those things. You can also be silly. And just fucking enjoy it. Both as a believer and as a non-believer. God, I really hate them. That's typical, isn't it? Remember that don't take things too seriously. I first came to that conclusion when I heard people bitching about top 10 lists, which were all the rage some years back on the internet. So like, oh, like people would get real serious about how dare you put this at that number, and other people were like, oh, nobody should do top 10s, they're frivolous. It's like, both of you are wrong. You can argue about where things belong in a top 10, but don't get fucking heated about it. And also, it's okay for people to be weirdly passionate about stuff, as long as it doesn't cross a line. When you're actually trying to harm someone because they think whatever Enchi Muyo is better than K-On. Yeah, that's no good. But being passionate about anime and really arguing about it is totally fine. As long as the fight should be in the ring. Right? I feel like maybe that's an unpopular opinion these days. But so many people seem to decide that if you like A, then all, XYZ defines you, or is applicable to you. Never liked that sort of philosophy. Yeah, share one of my favorite jokes. This is way back in the day. Man is driving home with his son after his son's football game. And they're on this little side road, podunk, middle of nowhere. And all of a sudden, one of the tires flies off. Dad safely recovers the car, get it out over to the side of the road. They find the tire, they can't find the lug nuts. This is back before cell phones, but the bad thing is that they are in front of an insane asylum. And worse yet, one of the inmates, or not inmate, one of the patients, is standing by the fence, staring at him. And father's unnerved by this, but he doesn't want to freak his son out. So after thinking for a second, he turns to his son and says, "Hey, back down the road, there was a gas station. Here's my wallet. It was about 2 miles away. Go to the gas station, they'll have lug nuts." And before the kid can take off, the mental hospital patient speaks up. He goes, "Hey!" And Dad jumps. The guy says, "Listen, if you take one lug nut off the other 3 tires and you use it to put it on the one that fell off, I wouldn't trust it to get you home, but it'll get you to that gas station you were talking about." So Dad thinks about it for a second, realizes the guy's right. He goes, "Oh, wow, you know what? Yeah, that makes sense. Thanks. I'm sorry, I didn't think you'd be much help." And the patient, without missing a beat, goes, "Hey, I'm crazy, not stupid." I love that joke, because I feel like it has a good philosophy to it. And just because someone's wrong in one area does not mean they are wrong in all areas. Although I imagine some people will get very mad at me for suggesting that someone in a mental hospital is wrong. Don't get me wrong, we have probably not treated mental health the way we should have in the past, but that does not mean that it isn't an issue that should be thought about. Staring more at my tablet's over here, where my chat is. And I'm watching it because I'm worried somebody's going to show up, because it seems like people like to show up around this time, which makes it seem like as soon as they show up, I take off. Like I'm some kind of scared rabbit. Don't get me wrong, I have my social anxieties, but nope, I stream for an hour. And that's it, and I'm tired from work. I have 100 things I need to do, and 1,000 I want to do. So, now granted, these streams are to help me reduce the amount of want and have to do. For some reason it's easier for me to do this as a stream than it is for me to do as just a leisurely activity. Like, I would have thought of it doing this, but I promise you it never would have got done. The furthest it would have got is I would have bought this piece of wood and it would have sat in this room for God knows how long. I would like at some point to add home repair to my list of things I do on stream. Speaking of things to do on stream, I had the idea for V-Trigger in my head for a long time. And I think it's the thing I've done least on stream. Even though it was a big part of me deciding to start streaming. Honestly, the reason I started streaming was watching Kirsha. I have this weird thing where I watch people do something really well, then I'm like, yeah, I want to do that too. And it's like, it doesn't make sense in my brain. It would make sense if I saw somebody do it poorly and was like, oh, well, fuck, I can do that. But, like, I started doing stand-up comedy after watching Tim Dillon perform. Like, Tim Dillon is a fantastic comic. Why would seeing him do it really well inspire me to do it very poorly? Oh damn, there was a bit forming in my head at some point, I think today or yesterday. Can't remember. Oh, well, there was the one of the first ones I did. Thinking about that. My sort of delusions of grandeur, thinking I'm going to be able to stream with bigger names. I've heard it's not good to just have, well, arguments with yourself, which I do those too, but I also have like speeches and collab with people who have no idea I even fucking exist. Funny thing is, I do the same thing with streams. Like at work, I'm like, oh, on stream I'll talk about this and this and this, and then I hit go live, and I'm like, so how about them Knicks, huh? I like that I made a joke about being awkward and then immediately went silent. I'm also trying to get used to keeping my audio in my ears. Ah, you this fucking cheap thing. Ooh. Okay, no, it tightened up, What was I talking about? V-Trigger. I'll probably do it Saturday. I'm trying to start doing that a bit more. I would like to get into play. And last time I worked on it, I liked where it was going, where I kind of had a half-formed thought and then stumbled upon an answer and saw how that was going to change some of the stuff that I had already made. But what am I doing? Okay. So, there's one thing I wanted to do. Hold on. Something I meant to do earlier. Let's see if I accidentally burn down my house. But I'm going to do this and then call it a night. Okay, that looks really fucking cool. That turned out way better than I thought. Holy shit. I might have to recarve this. Alright, yeah, so I'll sand that, clean it up, put some, probably just do tung oil on this. The oak takes the tung oil real well. But that's gonna be it for me for tonight. I'm tired. Get out of here.